Good day everyone. Today I'll be presenting on gastroenterology with a specific focus on the human stomach. My name is Erroy Casper Felix, and through this presentation, I'll explain the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and a common disease related to the stomach, which is gastritis. By the end of this presentation, I hope everyone will have a clear understanding of how the stomach functions and why it is clinically important. Gastroenterology is a medical specialty that focuses on the digestive system. This includes organs such as the esophagus, stomach, intestines, liver, pancreas, and other related structures. It mainly studies how food is digested and absorbed, as well as diseases affecting the gastrointestinal tract. This field is very important because proper digestion is essential not only for nutrition but also for immunity and overall health. So now I'm going to be explaining about the anatomy of the stomach. So first we're gonna look at the topography of the stomach, which refers to the location and relations to the abdomen. So the stomach is located in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen. It lies mainly in the epigastric region and left hypochondrial region. Superiorly, it connects to the esophagus at the cardiac orifice around the level of T11, while inferiorly, it connects to the duodenum through the pyloric orifice around L1. And anteriorly also, the stomach is related to the diaphragm, liver, and anterior abdominal wall, while posteriorly, it lies on the stomach bed, which includes the spleen, pancreas, and left kidney. Alright, moving on to the external features. So basically, the stomach has several important external features. It has two curvatures, which are the lesser curvature and the greater curvature. The lesser curvature will be on the medial side, which attached to the lesser omentum, and the greater curvature will be on the lateral side, which attached to the greater omentum. So there will be two notches as well, which are the cardiac notch and the angular notch. The cardiac notch will be between the esophagus and fundus, while the angular notch will map the junction between the body and pyloric region. Right, now we're gonna look to the parts of the stomach. The stomach is divided into several parts. The cardia is the region near the interior of the esophagus, while we can see here the fundus is the dome-shaped upper part that often stores gas, and the body is the largest portion and is the main site of secretion. The pyloric part consists of the pyloric antrum, which is involved in mixing, and the pyloric canal, which leads into the duodenum. The pyloric sphincter controls the release of chyme into the small intestine. Okay, now we're gonna look at the layers of the gastric wall. The stomach wall has several layers. The mucosa contains gastric pits and glands that secrete mucus, acid, and enzymes. The submucosa contains blood vessels and nerves that support gastric function. The muscellary is unique because it has three layers: inner, oblique, middle circular, and outer longitudinal, which allow effective churning of food. Finally, the serosa is the outer protective layer that reduces friction during movement. Alright, now we're gonna move on to the physiology, and we'll first look into the functions of the stomach. Alright, so basically, the stomach serves several important functions, which are: it temporarily stores food, perform mechanical digestion through churning, perform mechanical digestion through and chemical digestion using acid and enzymes. It also converts food into a semi-liquid substance called chyme, and also acts as a barrier against pathogen due to its acidic environment. Alright, now we're gonna look at the gastric secretory cells. So there are different types of cells in the gastric glands. We have one, mucus cells that secrete mucus and bicarbonate to protect the stomach lining, and then we have parietal cells which secrete hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor, and last we have chief cells which secrete pepsinogen, which is an inactive enzyme. So there are also enteroendocrine cells such as G cells that secrete gastrin, and D cells that secrete somatostatin, which regulate acid secretion. Alright, now we're gonna look at the role of gastric secretion. Alright, so hydrochloric acid helps to denature the proteins and activate pepsin, and as well as kill the bacteria. So the pepsin begins the digestion of proteins, while mucus protects the gastric mucosa from acid damage, while intrinsic factor is important for the absorption of vitamin B12 in the ileum. Alright, now let's move on to the phases of gastric secretion. Alright, so here we have 3 phases of gastric secretion. The first phase is cephalic phase, which is triggered by the sight, smell, or taste of food and is mediated by the vagus nerve. And then second, we have the gastric phase, which occurs when food enters the stomach, causing stretch and gastrin release, resulting in maximum acid secretion. And the last phase is intestinal phase, which begins when chyme enters the duodenum and is mostly inhibitory, preventing excessive acid secretion. Alright, now we have covered the anatomy and physiology of the stomach. Now we're gonna cover the biochemistry of the stomach. The biochemistry of the stomach focuses on the chemical process involved in digestion. The main components are hydrochloric acid and pepsin, which are secreted by specialist gastric cells. Together, they create an acidic environment that is essential for protein digestion. Alright, so we're gonna look at the pepsinogen at pepsin. So the chief cell will secrete pepsinogen, which is inactive, and in an acidic environment, the pepsinogen will be converted into pepsin. So what is the function of this pepsin? Pepsin will digest the proteins into smaller peptides and works best at low pH. So this mechanism will help prevent self-digestion of gastric cells. Now I'm going to explain one of the main diseases in the stomach, which is gastritis. Alright, so what is gastritis? Gastritis is defined as inflammation of the gastric mucosa. So it can be either acute or chronic and occurs when the protective gastric barrier is disrupted and leading to mucosal injury. Alright, so now we're gonna look at the main cause of gastritis, which is Helicobacter pylori. So Helicobacter pylori is a gram-negative spiral-shaped bacterium that produces iris to neutralize stomach acid. It penetrates the mucous layer and causes chronic inflammation and may eventually lead to gastric ulcers. So how can we diagnose this gastritis? Is by using upper gastrointestinal endoscopy. So by using gastrointestinal endoscopy, it allows us to directly visualize the gastric mucosa to detect inflammation, erosion, or bleeding. And the biopsy samples can also be taken to confirm the diagnosis, and then we can detect the Helicobacter pylori. So for the Helicobacter pylori, we have 2 main treatments, which are proton pump inhibitors and H2 receptor blockers. Alright, so we're gonna look at the proton pump inhibitors. Proton pump inhibitors, or PPI, inhibit the H plus or K plus ATPase proton pump, resulting in strong acid suppression. So they promote healing of the gastric mucosa. For example, omeprazole, pantoprazole, and esomeprazole. For the H2 receptor blockers, H2 receptor blockers will reduce acid secretion by blocking histamine action on parietal cells. They are frequently used in mild to moderate gastritis. Examples are famotidine and ranitidine. In conclusion, the stomach plays a vital role in digestion through its unique structure, secretions, and regulatory mechanism. Understanding its anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry helps us to better understand the common diseases such as gastritis and their treatment. Thank you for listening.